Well, Professor Josh Blackman is a constitutional lawyer and associate professor of law at South Texas College of Law, and he joins us now. Thank you for joining us here on BBC News. What did you make of the defence argument today, their case?
Well, I think the defense has one line, and they keep repeating it over and over again, is that you can't impeach Trump because he's out of office. They have a couple of follow-up arguments. They argue that the president's speech is entitled to free speech protections, and also that the House denied him the due process of law. Frankly, the president's counsel is not standout. He sort of scrambled to find anyone who could help him. But their job is easy. They think they already have the votes. They're just trying not to screw things up as bad as they can.
Do you think they have the votes?
Well, I think President Trump's lawyers have the votes. That is the votes to not convict. I think the House managers, that is the prosecutors, do not have the votes to convict. No, not even close.
Gosh. OK, so if he does get acquitted, what message do you think that's going to send out to America and also to the party?
Well, I think half of America will be relieved because I think the president was being targeted unfairly. And the other half of the country will be upset because I think he tried to incite insurrection at the Capitol. But politically speaking, I think President Trump has been tainted. I sincerely do believe that even if Republicans can vote to not convict him, I think they recognize that his actions at a minimum were atrocious and do not warrant re-election and sending him back to high office. So even though this trial didn't convict President Trump, I think the effect is that President Trump was basically disqualified from holding a Republican nomination in the future. So I do think there was a political effect of this proceeding.
So was this trial? What was the point of this trial then? What was the point of it then?
I don't know. I appreciate the question. Immediately after January 6th, there was this urgency. We have to get rid of Trump. He's an existential threat. But once January 20th came along, that threat dissipated. He no longer was in power. He could do no harm. Perhaps he could run for office in 2 years or 4 years. But the House still rushed to this snap proceeding. There were no hearings. They had no witnesses. They had no testimony. They had no evidence. They didn't send a subpoena to Trump officials. They did nothing. They just came to with a bunch of tweets and surveillance videos. So I think they just wanted to do something, get it over with, and move on to the Biden agenda. This was a show trial. I don't think they really intended to convict. They knew they weren't going to, so they didn't really try to. They just did the best they can in 4 or 5 days, and now we're going to move on with our lives.
OK, so the questions are taking place at the moment, and when we listen in, there's a lot of legal technicalities, a lot of points that have been drawn out. In terms of when it comes to voting, which we understand could take place tomorrow, which legal argument do you think Republican senators will use to justify to acquit Mr. Trump? What is their strongest point?
Well, to be clear, senators don't have to explain their votes. They simply cast a yay or nay vote, convict or not convict. So we may not even know. But so far, I think almost 45 or 46 of the senators have said, you cannot impeach a former president. And that's the line they're sticking to. The advantage of that line is they don't have to address the actions Trump did. If he can't be removed, if he can't be convicted, we don't have to even talk about the specifics. We can just throw it out, judge a book by its cover, right? We don't have to look at the inside of the book. I think that's the easiest, most painless way to go about this process.
OK, Professor Josh Blackman, thank you very much for your thoughts. Let's take you...